So in the last video we talked about functions. In today's video we're going to talk about a specific class of functions known as anonymous functions. So what are anonymous functions? As the name suggests, an anonymous function is just a function that is anonymous, and that precisely means a function that does not have a label. In the previous video we all created functions with labels, such as calculator that took in, for example, two integers and returned another integer, and so on and so forth. So all of the functions that we created actually had a label, we could say. Well, anonymous functions actually don't have a label. They're just functions that do something, and well, we can assign them to a variable. We will see we can do that, but by themselves they actually don't have a label, and we can also call them on the spot. That means the place where we write them, we will be able to call them immediately. So let's start by seeing how we can write an anonymous function in terms of syntax. So in order to create an anonymous function, let's first try to create an anonymous function and assign it to a variable. Let's, for example, call this variable get product, and then of course we're going to use the colon equal operator, and then to specify that we're starting an anonymous function, we just use the keyboard func, and then immediately after specify the type of inputs that are going to get. So now suppose that we want to write a function that gets the product of two integers. So we can say a int and b int, and then it's going to return an int. Now notice here that also a faster way to write our input is just to say a and b both of type int. This actually will work. This also will work if you try to compile it like this. And then inside of here, you can, for example, say return a times b. Now, if we try to print out the, for example, get product of 2 and 9, let's see what we get. As you can see, we get 18 as expected. Another thing that we can do is also call the implicit function that we define on the spot. So now let's try to define, for example, let's try and define an implicit function that takes, for example, an integer and prints it out to the console. I'm going to print line a, and now let's call it with value 2. Let's see what happens. As you can see, we get 2 because with anonymous functions we are able to call the function on the spot. So here we define an anonymous function, a function without a label, and then we called it immediately. Now that we are comfortable with anonymous functions, we will look also at how we can return functions from a function. So yes, when we use functions, we can also set functions as a return type for functions. Let's try, for example, to write a function, you could say function 1, that takes in, for example, a number, or actually let's take in a string, and returns out a function. And now to specify that return type is a function, we're going to use the func keyword and then these braces here. With this, we're going to specify that we are going to return a function that takes in no input, and also returns nothing. So it is a function that returns void. And now to specify what we're going to return, we're going to use an anonymous function. For example, we're going to say func, and then inside the code will be, for example, printf, or maybe print line, just the text that we passed in. And now inside of main, we can say print text is going to be colon equals function 1 of, for example, hello world, and then we're going to actually execute the function. So this print text variable that we have here is actually a function. Why? Because we're setting it equal to the output of function 1. The output of function 1 is a function, in particular an anonymous function, the following one, which will just print out the input of the function 1. Once we have done this, we will then call the function print text, because it is an actual function in its own right. And so by running this, as you can see, we will get hello world as expected. So with this said, we have said enough about functions, and in the next video we're going to look at some other important keywords in the Go programming language.